Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast, which Craig Touch and myself, Roland Fume, got some of the interesting figures and leading lights of this crazy industry of writing and self-publishing. And today we are delighted to have a very special guest who I am fascinated to talk to, Peter Moore. Peter Moore is the editor of Men's Health, the articles editor of Playboy, which is fascinating. Playboy is a magazine I have deep affection for. A man who's traveled all over the world from Minneapolis to Kathmandu and is joining us from Fort Collins, Colorado. So how are you doing today, Peter?
I'm delighted to be with you guys. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, Craig?
Doing great. Thanks, Roland, and thanks for joining us, Peter. Yeah, what we want to really dive into today is Substack, but why don't you start us off by telling us a bit about yourself and your writing career and how you got started with Substack, and then we'll go into there, because it's one of those topics that I'm hearing a lot about, and it's been around forever, right? But I haven't really ever looked into it at all. I hear about it once in a while from authors and that they're using it. And lately I've been hearing more and more about it. So it's a topic, and it's not something we've talked about before. And I know that other authors are in the same boat, where they, maybe have heard of it or maybe haven't heard of it at all, don't know what it is, how it's useful for them. So we're going to get all into that. But let's start with you and how you got here.
Yeah, so I ended up on Substack like a lot of story journalists did. I washed out of my career entirely and didn't know what I was going to do next. It's been, I don't need to tell the audience of this podcast that publishing has been in a funky way for the last 20 years, ever since the rise of the internet. And the question is, how can we writer, cartoonist, commentator types, what is our platform now? Where can we find an audience? 5 years ago, when I was at, when virtually every magazine that I'd been working for told me, we're not doing that anymore. I was flailing around a bit in my career and had lunch with a friend of mine in Boulder. I was telling him what I was up to at the moment. And he said, you sound like you're tailor-made for Substack. And I said, what? This was, just like a year after the pandemic. And he started telling me about, this relatively new platform where writers and illustrators such as myself could, in essence, be our own publishing companies. And, I had spent 30 years in traditional publishing and having a lot of success at it. And it was really disorienting to have all that wash out from underneath me. But I thought, well, if writers are flocking to Substack, let's see what happens when I flock there myself. I muddled along there for a couple of years with 300 subscribers and nobody paying for it, and me kind of scratching my head about, is this really the new world of publishing? But, in year 3 and 4, it started to take off for me. So this may not sound like too big of a number to your listeners, but I've got 13,000 subscribers and followers on Substack, which in that universe is a pretty big number. And I feel like I get more feedback on every piece I write now than I ever did, when I was the articles editor of Playboy or when I was the editor of Men's Health. I would, occasionally get a tickle from the readers, but mostly it was, me slogging away at my desk, wondering, if I would ever hear the pebble hit in the bottom of the well. Well, there's a lot of splashing going on my Substack right now. And that's a really good feeling. And I'm making some money off of it, and it has launched me in a whole new career direction. So all of those things, I consider it a tremendous success for me personally, and I'm clearly my readers are enjoying it too.
Oh, you had me at the money.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with 13,000 followers. Anybody, if everybody's buying your book and you got 13,000 people buying it, then that's not bad.
Yeah, well, the vast majority of them are freeloaders on the platform. I have a hardy band of people who are actually paying me for it. But what it has done for me is allow me to redefine myself as a writer and as a cartoonist now too. And my Substack led directly to my 2 main gigs right now. I'm a columnist and cartoonist for the Colorado Sun, which is a very large online newspaper in Colorado. And for them, I do the benefit of making fun of everything that Coloradans do and love, and someone has to take on that arduous work. But I'm also a commentator and animator for NPR, which, it's Colorado NPR, another huge audience that I'm in touch with. And none of that would have happened had I not redefined myself on Substack. So it allowed me to recreate who I am as a content producer and have a lot of fun doing it. So I'm super grateful that my friend breathed the word Substack to me over lunch that day.
And I know I say, oh, I like the money, and it sounds like cynical, like, oh, we're only in this for money. But the thing is, when you have a traditional career like an editor in a magazine, and technology advances and simply just sweeps the legs out from an entire industry, it is nice to be able to then find your own niche and continue to make a sustainable living doing something that you are passionate about. And so, yeah, it's what is it the Joker said in Batman? It's like, if you're good at something, never do it for free. And it is nice to be able to it's very inspiring to see you using a new tool that is available to people and succeeding in it and thriving in it.
I mean, isn't that the challenge of of us ink-stained wretches, is that technology is always advancing. It's not like mankind has any lesser need for a break, to take a laugh, narratives that inspire or amuse. It's like storytelling has been with us since cavemen sat around the fire. Substack is just a new version of that fire that the cavemen were sitting around, and you can shake down the other people at the fire and have them throw quarters at you, which is good. But it also established me as a producer of my own stuff, rather than, one of the ways I made the most money in the last 10 years was as a ghostwriter. And I'm not going to complain about the giant checks that flowed my way because I was writing other people's books, but it was kind of an empty feeling, was to like have that success and get the check. But it's like, I wrote somebody else's book. Why would I do that? That's just stupid. I have my own skills and my own things that I want to say. And Substack just like swept all that away. I stopped taking ghostwriting jobs. And I said, I don't have forever to do this, to establish my own voice and my own productivity. And Substack just like push that all aside. It's like, okay, here's your blank page. How are you going to fill it? And, I've done probably 350 posts now on my Substack. And, with each of them, it feels like my voice as a writer, my skills as a animator and cartoonist, all these things are growing because I dove into this and committed to it. And that's a good feeling. And I'm grateful to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think there's something that's really wonderful about it, I think we can probably all agree to this, is when you create something, like I self-publish books and you've got your Substack, you're not forcing people to pay for it. You are offering something and people see enough value in it that they are happy to pay their money. And I think that's a really wonderful thing, where you actually feel like you earn the income that you get. And art, what is it they say, that we have art so we don't die of the truth? And when things are people create something and it is meaningful to you, it has value. I went to go and see Superman for the second time yesterday because it uplifted me as a movie. And I was like, take my money, because this is a beautiful piece of art. So all of those people, 13,000 people who are saying, take my money, Peter, because you're giving me something that I feel has value.
Yeah. And, and a side benefit of Substack is that it truly is at this point a community. There's a lot of concern about it as it grows, that you have all sorts of people bigfooting in there and just like dropping their name into it, and they're big celebrities, so naturally they have immediately have 1 million followers on Substack. It feels like there's a precious core of people like me who came on there because they wanted an outlet. They wanted to do something that was unique to them and specific to them. So there's a battle going on for the soul of Substack right now. And I'm hopeful that what's precious about it and what's special about it, just like you were saying, connecting a creator with an audience, that's a beautiful alchemy that happens there. And it also happens among other people who are writing for Substack. So now I've got this whole world of Substack buddies who we support one another, we comment on each other's posts, We do joint posts together. Like, and being part of that writers community kind of recreates, what I felt when I was working at Playboy and Men's Health, that I was, part of a like-minded group of people working for the same, in the same direction, doing similar tasks but different. And, that mutual support that I feel, from other Substackers, but also from the people who subscribe to my Substack, that all feels really good and, sustains me, as I said, all alone here in my barn in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay, well, let's take a step back for a second and discuss what is Substack exactly.
Yeah, so it's a blogging platform essentially, but it's it's blogging tools. So there are a bunch of people who only post video on Substack. They're vloggers, I guess, on Substack. There are people like me who I publish twice a week at petermoore.substack.com, but I'm also a frequent commenter on what they call Substack Notes, which is their version of kind of like a combination of X and Instagram, posting images, writing about them, connecting with a larger audience, finding, the readers who are going to subscribe to me tomorrow. So it's a pretty robust universe right now of writers and posters who are conducting chats, conducting courses off of it. As Substack has grown and matured, so has their technology. So there are a lot of different directions you can go to on Substack. I choose it mostly to be a place where I can post my writing and drawings and interact with my readers. But there are many other people who are, deep into 16 layers of technology on there, and maybe they have more time in their days than I have in mine. But I, even my little corner of it has been very satisfying for me. And, every couple of weeks I'll receive a note from Substack informing me that you're in the number 23 and rising humorist on Substack. And it's like, I go, woohoo! And then 15 minutes later, I'm completely off the list because somebody who's funnier than I am has posted. But it's still, it's a destination for me to go to know people, to show people my work, to establish relationships with, people who I hope will be buying my books. And when I turn my Substack into a zine, they're going to be the ones who, pay me $12 for it. So I feel like it's a business I'm building in addition to sharpening my own voice and wit as a writer and as a cartoonist.
Okay, so if an author wanted to start on Substack and they're new to it, you go on and you create your channel, whatever it's called, your Substack, and they start posting whatever it is they post. Let's say they're a fairly new writer without much of a following of their own. How would people discover them? That's, I think, the first question that people are going to wonder, because when you're selling a book, there's, especially as a self-publisher, there's a lot of things you have to do, and one of the really parts that is difficult or a lot of authors don't really like is marketing yourself and finding the audience and advertising and all those things to draw people, because these days it's not like it was when we started where you could post a book on Amazon and people would find you. You have to get found by putting yourself out there somehow via advertising or whatever. So with Substack, and there's obviously lots and lots of people with Substack, how do people just discover you?
Well, one of the tools for that is Substack Notes, which is kind of a free-for-all on Substack. As I said, it's kind of a combination of X and Instagram on Substack. So that's more of your, so I post on Saturdays and Wednesdays. I'll have a steady chain of images from the post, the funniest jokes that I put in there, animations that I did, that I will post, so if I post on Sunday, I'll do a few posts on Sunday about the post. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, I'll be talking about it some more, putting up links so that people can find it. And it isn't magic. You don't wave your wand and all of a sudden, people find you there. I really do feel like the reason why I've made it to the degree that I have on Substack is that I really did have an idea behind what I wanted to do, and it was a very specific kind of content that people would find in my Substack. And, it's never going to work, nor has it ever in the history of pen to paper, that if you don't know what to say, people are not going to find you. If you have a very specific thing that you offer, and in my case, it's like 5 minutes of whimsy and laughs to distract you from how horrible the world is right now. If you can sell that thing, that unique thing that you can do, then Substack is a good place for you. But you talked about starting up on Substack. It'd be a really good idea to decide what that idea is that you had in mind and get a run at it. We always used to at Men's Health talk about the unique selling proposition of the magazine. Well, my Substack has its own unique selling proposition. Other Substacks have theirs, and you have to be in a niche. You have to be thrilled to be in that niche and fill it well, and that's when people start finding you. But just general musings on this is what I think about the universe isn't going to get you very far on Substack.
Right, and my assumption is like, okay, they have something they want to say, but people still need to find you, right? And that's the part that I think is where I'm not totally clear on it, because it's the same with publishing. If you write a book that no one wants to read, even if you're great at marketing it, it's not going to sell, right? So yes, absolutely, you have to have what you want to talk about, but how will that audience find you if you don't already have a built-in audience? And I guess you're saying, you would post it to this notes thing. And is there a search functionality? Are there categories that people would just browse?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in travel and humor. So people know that that's where they're going to find my stuff. And there are, 10 or 15 different categories that Substack offers you. So if you're into that, then there's also, I do a lot of podcasts, just like I'm doing with you guys now. That's another way that that people find me, because I've established an expertise in something, and people want to talk to me about it. But I'm active on a lot of social media. Facebook, Instagram, X. LinkedIn. There are a lot of places where I'm putting my stuff up, and I was met with a vast silence there for the first, couple of years. But then I got my legs under me, and as these things go, there was a production or a circulation manager at Men's Health who used to say that the hardest thing to do is to get the wheel to turn around once, and sometimes once you can get the wheel to go around once, it develops a momentum of its own. When I had a significant presence on Substack, the wheel started going on its own and generating subscribers. I've also, there are a couple of companies that I work with that help me find people. Refind.com is one of them, and I have a deal with them to help me find people who are interested in what I do. Miko is another one that's a search engine for people who are looking for newsletters specifically. And if somebody types in travel and humor, they're going to get a blast from me. And with any luck, what they see from me is going to be enough to make them say, you know what, I'll become a free subscriber and see how this works out. Then it's up to me to convert them from free to paid. It hasn't been the fastest process, but as I said, there have been all these ancillary benefits for me. So I wouldn't give it up now. And plus, I would miss everybody if I wasn't publishing on Saturdays and Wednesdays. It's just great to see, those numbers rocket up as people are opening it, the comments that come in, the questions people ask me. All of that is very gratifying for me as a producer, but it also tightens the community of what I do on Substack.
And so how does the subscription model work? So I go to your page, it asks me if I want to be a subscriber, but I can say no, and I can still see the content. So is it that is it two tiers, non-subscriber and subscriber? Is it 3 tiers, subscriber, free subscriber, paid subscriber, and non-subscriber, or how does that all work?
Yeah, it goes free subscriber, the vast majority of my 13,000, thank you very much. Paid subscriber, and then founding subscriber, which I think so far it's only my brother-in-law is a founder, but he paid extra to be a founding member. And if I were more attentive to this, I would really load up on the benefits for the subscribers. And it's one of the things that I'm working on now is figuring out how to monetize what is in fact a popular Substack. So because I have all these other things going in my life and Substack supports them, I feel like that's, very often it's my sampling of this is what I do. If you like it, then, pay me to do it, or buy these other things that I'm going to be preparing to sell to you. So yeah, so it's, they come in the door for free. If they decide to hang around, then I can guilt them into paying me for it. And then once they pay me for it, then they're candidates to buy other stuff that I do. So, I can't say that it's a perfect model. I haven't worked it out entirely yet. So, those of your listeners out there who are thinking, I'm going to do like that guy and get rich. It's better to be rich first and then do it than it is to try to get rich while doing Substack.
That applies to a lot of things.
So
yeah, I don't want to mislead anybody about exactly what kind of prospect this is. If you've got 4 kids at home who are hungry, I don't think Substack is your answer.
Well, so it sounds a bit like a Patreon model too, right? Where you can have different levels of support with different tiers. But for yours, if everyone's mainly free or paid, is there a difference in content between what paid sees versus free, or is it really just a matter of I like this person, I want to support them and keep them going, so I'm going to give them a bit of money every month?
Yeah, it's more the latter that you just mentioned. That once I establish a relationship with them, it's easier for me to make them feel guilty for not paying for it. I came onto Substack fresh when Substack was the alternative to Patreon. But yeah, there are a number of people who have been trying to work out this model for people like me, like you guys, to get an income stream flowing that also supports the other stuff that you do. So it all can work in theory. There are people who are making $1 million a year off their Substacks. So that's out there, being angled as the golden carrot. And all us donkeys are chasing it, and some of us will catch it.
But there is the ability to create different tiers where they would have access to different things. So you could say have certain comics that are only available to, say, the paid tier, if you want.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, and I completely ran over your question. So I've got a paywall on my Substack. Basically, people can look for everything that I published this year. But if they try to go back into the archive, that's when we hit them with the paywall. And I know that there are other Substackers who offer courses here. Particularly like if you're a literary agent and you want to offer a course, you have a Substack and you want to offer a course in how to write a book proposal, then there are people who pay $50 for a 4-session class to be in that. Or another way to look at that is that you can have sort of online hangouts with your readers, but only the people who are paying for it. A lot of people use that as a carrot to lure out the paid subscribers. So they're you go on Substack, their profit model requires them to have lots of people who are making lots of money on Substack. So they're very eager to share with you the tips that work best, what kind of options there are for introducing paid aspects of what you do. And that's another thing that I've appreciated about Substack from the start, was right when I signed on, I enrolled in, it was a 5-week class talking about all things Substack, and they have that content that's available in various places on Substack.com. You can go to a whole graduate school of how to make your Substack pay, and Substack will support you in that. So yeah, there are a lot of different ways that you can introduce tiers on your Substack to nudge people in the direction of, okay, I like this, it's worth it, I'm going to pay now to get as they call it on Substack, the full experience of petermoore.substack.com.
Right. So what is the Substack model in terms of their own revenue? So do they charge you to create the Substack, or are they only just taking a percentage of the money that you earn through your subscriptions? And is there advertising that they're putting on there, and what kind of percentages are they taking? What's that sort of thing?
Yeah, so they get 10% of every subscriber. They get so from my brother-in-law, they took 10% of his founder's fee to maintain Substack.com, which it changed my life to be on here. So the thought of them taking 10% of what my subscribers are paying, that's fine with me, and I consider it justice. I know that there are different blogging platforms that will charge less. Substack is the cute girl of the moment. Everybody wants to be on there, so I'm very glad that I became established before it really blew up. It's pretty cool that it's a robust site. There are a lot of people on there, a lot of writers who I admire, who I can follow and establish a relationship with. With any luck, I'm going to get to a position where we can exchange posts, or that I can do illustrations for their posts. Trying to figure out how to do that. That's one of the things I propose all the time, and I've had some successes sharing content with people who are have big audiences on Substack. So that's another way that you get to grow, is if you can become affiliated with these people who have 1 million subscribers on Substack, and have them recommend you. Lucian Truscott is a journalist who his mission in life is to rag on the Trump administration, but he's got probably 500,000 subscribers, and he and I established a rapport pretty early on in his Substack and early on mine too, and he's recommending me. And when somebody has 500,000 subscribers who is recommending you, that can turn into a pretty sweet gig. And I see every couple of days there's another subscriber who comes to me because Lucian Truscott recommended me. So those relationships are precious on Substack, and it's up to every Substacker to find the people who are in their like field, who their readers could be my readers. How can I collaborate across that and entice them?
And there's no actual fee to set up a Substack and run it, though, right?
No,
so the 10% that makes sense, right? I mean, they've got to pay their bills somehow.
Yeah, you can go on Substack and be ignored entirely for free if you choose to.
Do they have advertising on there at all?
No. It was one of the reasons they set themselves up as an alternative to ad-based writing. And it is in fact kind of annoying to have, hey, stop reading my blog post here and pay attention to this random sponsor who pops up there. I haven't gone for those sponsorships yet, because I want it to be a pure experience for my readers, just them and me. But there are plenty of other Substack platforms where you can get advertisers, and the degree to which you have the readership is the degree to which those advertisers will pay you. If I were to swap all 13,000 of my subscribers over into a posting platform that accepted advertising for posts, I could make some more money at this, and I may indeed try to do that over YouTube once I get my act in gear on that. Because I've got a ton of content now. It's just a question of where I divide it up and send it around, and it wouldn't bother me if YouTube was placing ads on video content or animations that I do. So that's the next one down the line for me.
Right. Yeah, we hear a lot about authors that use it as a way to connect to their audience, which makes sense, because there's not often, you write a book and there's not often a great way to get that feedback. There's Facebook or there's X or whatever, but this allows you to sort of like have more of a writing presence where people actually are subscribing specifically to you, and not getting with Facebook, you write a post and 4% of your people can see it, and then it's only if it's shared. Here, I imagine everybody can see every post that you write, all your subscribers. So that makes a lot of sense to really have a much more engaged, relationship with your readers, and then
right.
Selling out
Right,
to
so-
them other things.
Yeah, and that reminds me of another important point. For that 10% that Substack takes from me, that subscriber list, that email list belongs to me. I can download it at any time. I can email all of them, all that I want to. I can imagine, at some point soon, I'm going to have other books, zines, artwork that I'm going to want to sell, and that I have that marketplace out there available to me, and that it belongs to me, even if I decide to quit Substack. That means a lot. And these are people who opted in for what I have to offer. So we know it's a pre-selected audience for what I do, and that most of them are very engaged with it. So they make a perfect target audience for anything that I might want to sell. But it's so far I haven't shared it with that audience, with advertisers who also would like to be in touch with them.
And you can send to those people through Substack, like as a newsletter, or do you have to, pull that list out and put it in something like MailChimp to send everybody something?
It's a drop-down menu that what do you want to write? New post, new video, email my readers, and I can do any subset of my readers. Only my readers in California. I'm doing a live event in California, in September. Y'all come out. That kind of appeal is definitely possible. There's lots of different ways you can slice up your Substack email list, and they provide those tools to you. So, people who are very smart about audience segmentation and who they're making their pitches to can go to town with that stuff. And, again, as in my education as a Substack writer and marketer of myself, these are all skills that I'm taking on now. And, I'm kind of embryonic in the amount of success I've had with it. On the other hand, I've got that very good, solid base of subscribers, and also a very good idea of what I want to do on Substack. So, having those pillars in place allows me to think about, okay, now what's the next big thing that I'm going to do with my Substack? And that's super exciting to have those opportunities out there.
I'm thinking about how this works, and I'm almost wondering if an author were to use a Substack to create and manage their mailing list, they almost don't need a MailChimp. And MailChimp being a company that you're paying, and the bigger your audience gets, the more you're paying to send them emails. Whereas with Substack, it sounds like if I built my list there, I still have access to it all. I can still segment it all, and then I can still send them for free emails, newsletters, or whatever. Is that?
Yeah.
Am I missing a piece there?
Think about like something like MailChimp. Okay, so you've got 1,000 emails on a MailChimp, account. Those people aren't used to opening your email because there's some rando who is filling up their inbox. There's a very small chance that anybody's going to click on that. As opposed to with Substack and the emails there, they are used to getting content from me that they engage with. So as long as I don't abuse the email list, when I've got something special to offer to them, more often than not, they're going to open it because it's interesting to them and because they have a relationship with me. Just because you've been able to accumulate an email list doesn't mean that anybody's going to even open them, or if it'll even get past your spam filter. So, with Substack, these people are in touch with me. They want to receive my emails, and when the time comes, when I make pitches to them, they'll at least consider them and open the email. And that's a great aspect of the email list on Substack, is that these are your buddies, and they're in there with you voluntarily, and they're looking for your communications.
That's a great way of looking at it. And that is really interesting. I think email fatigue is a big thing. Like 10 years ago, it was, oh yeah, if you're an author, you want to build up your mailing list. Your mailing list is everything. But I mean, I think we've all seen that the costs of running a mail service have increased, and the open rates have decreased, and the click-through rates have decreased. And so this might be wow, I'm learning something today, Peter.
Well, good. I hope it works for you. But, it's like I said, you do need to burrow in there and, establish this trust with your audience and build the audience. And then you've got something to market to. So, if you're willing to, if you take joy in communicating what you do with your audience, then it's self-sustaining in a way. And that can get you through the lean years where it's like, Jesus, is anybody reading this thing? Yes, I asked myself that many times. I don't have to ask myself that question anymore because I see the evidence every day of who's reading it. It's like anything. You have to be in the world, work with it, understand it, see where your opportunities are, what's special about it for what you do. Find those people who think what you do is special. All of those things, they follow on top of, I've got this thing I love to do, and I'm going to do it because I love it, not because 13,000 people subscribe to it. But then you get to the point eventually where 13,000 people do subscribe to it, and you think, gee, it'd be better if I had 30,000. So that's where I'm headed now, I hope.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like you're on the right track for sure. And I know that a lot of authors sort of, they create Patrons or whatever to have additional benefits for some of their key mail, or they have a Facebook subgroup for some of their most ardent fans, or they they have different rewards that they give. And it sounds like if they manage that through Substack, it's almost easier than all these other things. Plus, you have that ability to continue to grow your audience through more organic visibility. Whereas when you're creating a mailing list through, mainly at the back of your book and all that, it's not really growing in any other way than through, people finding that link or whatever. But it sounds like with Substack, there's ways for much more organic ways to be found.
And to grow and if you have a book, the core of my Substack was always a memoir that I had written and illustrated during COVID time. And that's kind of the core of what I put up there. It's an illustrated memoir that I haven't been able to find an agent for yet. But I have been able to find an audience for it on my Substack. So that's a pretty cool thing, that people are interacting with, a kind of content that really was a joy for me to produce, because I've been looking for an outlet for it for a long time. And as my Substack continues to grow, then the agents who dismissed me 3 years ago were like, well, that might work. So it's like they're coming around because I have a platform and an audience for what I do. They can see it as proof of concept, and that will then also be something that an agent could take to a publishing company and say, this guy's really popular with what he does. It'll work in book form too. Let's get going on that. And, with any luck, next couple of years, I'm going to be making those deals. So I hope. It's been an investment phase for me, but, it's been an investment in myself, and that's a good one to make.
I mean, I think one thing that you're always experiencing as a creative person is you are investing something. If you're not investing money in advertising and marketing, you are investing time and, your soul in creating something.
Yeah, well, and, it has helped me to grow as a creator too. There are all these, when I first got on Substack, I had all these deep doubts about myself as a writer illustrator, because I hadn't done that. My whole career before that had been in magazines and books. And it's like, who am I to think that I can take this turn late in my career and do this whole new thing? Well, you don't know until you try it, and you don't develop the skills until you are facing a twice a week deadline for publication. So I've literally done thousands of drawings in the last 3 years to support my Substack, And while I'm doing that, I'm realizing exactly what kind of cartoonist and illustrator I am, what my logical source material is, and importantly, what my readers most enjoy about what I do. So feedback from the readers, skill development of my own, both technical skills and my artistic and writing skills. I'm putting all those things together now, and Substack gave me the reason why I would do that. Otherwise, I'd be sitting in my office here, thinking, one of these days I'm going to do this great work. And in fact, it took Substack and the commitment of Substack to say, okay, it's Tuesday. What are you going to put up there tomorrow? And even asking myself that question provides motivation. It provides a drive to what I do. And it means that I'm discovering things about my own abilities every day when I do that work. So it's like when you sign in with you take a graduate school program in writing, say, and then you've got your writing professor saying, you must turn in that short story next Thursday. Substack has taken over as my writing nanny and telling me, you need to commit to this. You need to make this year's stuff better than it was last year. You need to be more engaging with your audience. You need to be paying closer attention to what they're after from what you do. And all of that has been a publishing industry education, with the publishing industry being me alone. And that's it's kind of scary, but it's also amazing as I can see it all developing and the momentum building toward what I don't know exactly, but it feels like it's happening for me. And I'll tell you in 3 years what exactly happened. Yeah, we can get back together in 2028.
Oh, well, I say let's mark our calendars right now and do that.
I mean, I think the benefit too is it's almost like rapid prototyping, where you're able to put out something and get immediate feedback on it and determine if you're going in the right direction, and then turn that into maybe another product or a piece of writing that you sell or whatever. And then all of these tools that you're talking about are sort of built in. You don't have to do them all. And I imagine even for the subscription model, right, it's all handled by Substack, the payment and everything, right?
Yeah, it clears a lot of that stuff out for me so that I can be, largely a creator. And, it was, I can still remember a couple of years ago, I just gotten back from France and taken, my wife and I traveled we kind of circumnavigated France, but it seemed like everywhere we went in France, we were like tripping over the ghost of Vincent van Gogh, who, spent the most productive years of his life in France just before he died. And while we were over there, I had this idea. I was going to write a Substack called Vincent and Me, and it was going to be about my relationship with Vincent van Gogh while I was traveling in France. And honestly, I had no idea. It was a new idea for me, something I hadn't tried before. I remember sending that post off and thinking, "What the heck was that?" But like immediately, as soon as I posted it, I could see that the lure of France, Vincent van Gogh, me being a wiseacre with my drawings and narratives about it, there was some alchemy there. And like over the course of like 3 days, 30,000 people read that post of mine when I had been used to having, 600 or 700 people read it. And, when I get feedback like that, it's like I realize, okay, so this is, I can learn from this. I can learn, what sort of humor is going to work with my audience on Substack. What are they going to respond to? And that instant feedback, it's just like you're saying, it's rapid prototyping for new stuff I want to try, extensions of the old stuff I have been doing. It's like my own creator laboratory where I can put stuff out there saying, oh, that one didn't work so well, but this one worked extremely well. Clearly, this is a direction I need to be going in. So, a buddy of mine wrote, that huge bestseller, Marley and Me. And at the time that he wrote that, he was a columnist for the Philly Inquirer, the newspaper in Philadelphia. And I was always jealous of him that he had that column. And he knew that there was an uptick in reader comments whenever he talked about his dog. So he thought, okay, there's something here. I'm going to push that into my book, Marley and Me, which was, a mega seller, made into a Hollywood movie, changed his life entirely. So what I'm looking for in my Substack is where's my Marley in me? What are my readers really responding to? And what could I then branch out into a book project or standalone Substack? Who knows? There are a lot of ways that I could do it. But unless you're putting this stuff out there and getting the feedback, you just don't know. And that's why your comment about prototyping was apt, because that's what we writers need is a place to send our trial balloons up. And Substack is a great medium for a trial balloon.
What a brilliant thought. Now, we are unfortunately reaching the top of the hour, so we're going to have to wrap things up. But that was actually a really nice bookend to sort of wrap things up with. So, Peter, before I ask you to tell people where they can go and join your Substack, Craig, do you have any final questions?
No, I don't have any final questions. Just, I want to thank Peter, because this has been a really good primer for people to understand what it is that they can do with Substack, especially writers, because it sounds like there's a lot of potential there, whether it's, helping to build your list and prototype out ideas, get feedback from a more diverse crowd about some of the ideas that you have for your next project. All of that stuff sounds really good, and it's free, which is always a plus. And it can earn you money, not just free, but it can earn for you. And even if it doesn't, it still has all those other benefits. So thanks for coming on and breaking it all down for us.
Oh, sure, it's my pleasure. So,
Peter, where can people join your Substack?
It's very complicated. petermoore.substack.com. My name isn't even hard to spell. Moore. So it's petermoore.substack.com. All my stuff ends up there. I do a lot of writing for a lot of different people. Anything that's appropriate for my audience will end up there too. My commentaries for NPR and my Colorado Sun columns go there too. So if they can just manage to type in Peter Moore, one word, .substack.com, they have the keys to the kingdom.
Absolutely. The man with more, much more, Peter Moore. We will be sure to pop that exact link down below in the description. So if you've enjoyed everything that Peter has shared with us today and you want to go and support him by joining his Substack, you know where to go. Scroll down. And as you scroll down, you will see that big empty comment box. So make sure you leave Peter a comment and let him know how much you appreciated everything he shared with us today. And at the same time, there's that subscribe button if you haven't already. There's that like button. Give that a smash, as the kids say. And of course, the bell icon. So if you click that, you'll get notified every time there is a new episode of Fully Booked. And of course, there will be a brand new episode of Fully Booked next week. So until then, thank you very much for joining us. Cheerio.